Sometimes you have patterns in your life that you need to break free from, patterns that you possibly didn't even know was there. Today, we're going to speak with the owner of Body Flow. We're going to meet Kemina. She's going to take us through a nervous system and how to recalibrate it so you can stop living in survival mode, clearing up your energy at its deepest level so the old patterns don't return, realigning with your natural state so you don't have to force change anymore, so you can finally feel free and clear and fully in flow. All right, let's go meet Kemina. I want to go back to energy mastery.
hmm
If we could talk a little bit about how you kind of got into that, could you give us some insight into it?
Well, there's a really long story to it. I guess, it all started when I just wasn't well. I'd been through it. I'd been through a lot of trauma. I had a challenging childhood, much like others. It's, a lot of abuse. And then when I was 30, my father took his life and tried to strangle my mom. It was a very traumatic moment, and it made me have this thought that I needed to go down a spiritual path. And I broke up with my fiance at the time because I was like, he can't go down there with me. I lost my job. It was a hell of a year, and it really shook me to my core. And I was like, okay, I need to go down this spiritual path. But I was in such overwhelm and such shock that I didn't go there very soon. I partied. I needed to numb myself. It was just too overwhelming for me to face. And it wasn't until about 10 years later, when my body was aching, I was in pain, I was really sick, and I was depressed, that I went, okay, I need to do this now. And it was a housemate that said to me, you need to go to the Mind Body Spirit Festival. And I went, oh, okay, yep. And then the next day she said to me, did you go? And I went, no, I didn't. She said, you really need to go. And I went, okay. So I went to the Mind Body Spirit Festival, which is this festival with like crystals and tarot card readers and, all the things. And I saw this stand there as a kinesiology stand. And I had this thought, I've always wanted to try kinesiology. And then I just went, wait a second, I've actually never heard of it. And that was just so strange to me. I was like, what the hell is that about? I've got to try this thing now. And so I had this little 20-minute session, and it blew my mind. It was like, wow, and previously I'd tried acupuncture, and, I couldn't stand up for longer than 10 minutes without being in excruciating pain. And, I was trying chiropractic, like you name it, I tried it. And this was like, blew my mind. So I went, okay, I'm going to sign myself up for this course that they teach. And within the next month, I was learning it. And that's how it all began. But that was really very much the beginning. But that was the starting of it.
Okay, so let me paint this picture, right? You are calling right now from Australia. That's where you are currently located. That's where you're from. So, with that, I want to paint the picture of like internationally, we all go through some of the same things, right? We all have some of the same problems, no matter where you're located, right? So, you went to this festival, and I say that to say that like we're all connected in that sense. Um, you went to this festival, and so what transpired
Okay.
after? And what did that
Yeah.
lead to?
Well, I guess what really came up in it, like, because energy work is, you know, energy is what we're transmitting 24/7. What happens in our energetic field goes on in our physical body, and vice versa, as above, so below. And what was interesting in this 20-minute session that I had was this person was able to see and tell me what was going on in my body through all my stories. She was able to pinpoint all these stories that had occurred in my life and tell me in detail what had occurred. And it happened, and it really triggered an emotional response in me that was huge. Like I cried, and I was like, "Wow, how can that be? That all of this this person knows all this really deep stuff and could tell me exactly what was going on in my body without me having told her anything." And I was like, "Yes, that's happening, and that's happening." So it kind of blew my mind, because it was like, how do you know this stuff? Um, and so it you know it helped to unravel all the trauma sitting in my organs and glands and my structure and wherever else in my body and my brain. And so that's what really was fascinating to me, was that she, in reading my energy, she could actually heal my body.
I can imagine. I can definitely imagine how that would, kind of shake you loose, and make you believe. With that being said, how soon was it before you realized your awakening to the point that you decided to make a business from what you experienced?
Yeah, so that's an interesting story in itself. It was a 2-year course that I was doing, and I was halfway through. I completed a year, and I was managing a digital agency at the time. I'd been working in advertising for about 16 years, and I was managing a digital agency, and it was, it didn't feel right to me. It was like full of egos and, you know, people wanting more in a faster amount of time for less money. And you're like, that's not cool. And it was high pressure, and just way too many egos for my liking. And so it was pretty soul destroying, and it didn't resonate with me. And my boss, was a workaholic. He was messaging me at 9 and 10 o'clock at night, and all hours of the day. I was having to work his hours because that's what he chose to work, and I didn't choose to work like that. And I, mentioned to him, "You've got to stop doing this. You've got to stop um, contacting me at these hours, and I'm not going to answer, and it's not okay." And he kept doing it. And there's one time I just had enough, and I just said, "If you message me one more time, I'm going to quit." And he did. So I quit. And then I was like, "Oh shit, what do I do now?" I'm like, "Well, I'm really good at this energy stuff. I never planned to do it as a job. I just wanted to learn how to do it. I was fascinated by it because I love to learn. I'm driven by wisdom, and that's my driving force. And I really loved it. And I'm like, well, I can do this. So I'm like, why don't I just start my own business? And I knew advertising, so that's where it all began.
These are the stories. These are the stories that I love to hear. These are the stories that made me start this podcast and continue with this podcast, because these are the stories that I want others to hear about and learn that you can do it. You can really set off on your own. And Kamina, you did that with your own business. So now you have a business. As far as your offerings and your services, what are they?
So I've been doing this for about, I don't know, about 11 or 12 years now. And it's really evolved over time because I, was doing kinesiology and I was helping people, but I was peeling off one layer at a time. And I was like, I was trying to heal myself in the process, because I wasn't well. And I was definitely a whole lot better than when I first started learning kinesiology, but I still had a long way to go. And I'm like, I've got, I've got more than a few layers. I reckon I've got millions of layers here. I don't have all that time in the world to peel off one layer at a time. There's got to be a faster and more powerful way of doing this. And just in opening myself up to that question, uh, you know, things came to me, different modalities came to me, and I started to explore. And I was working, as I was doing that, I was started working with thousands of clients from all over the world, and I was getting, deep insights into what was the most effective way. And I looked at many different modalities, and I realized that because I have this gift where I can just see what's essential and what's not, like that. And I realized that every single modality I looked at was about 95% fluff, and you know not useful, and only a small amount was actually useful. So I took all those useful bits and I ended up creating what body flow energetics. And then I still felt like there was something missing, there was something more. And then I discovered an ancient Egyptian way of doing things, and it was surprisingly similar to what I was doing. And I went, wow, I created this thing on my own, and it's actually really like what the ancient Egyptians did. And they know a thing or two about transformation, right? So and then life happened, and I went through another extremely traumatic moment where a partner tried to kill me, and some spiritual leaders scapegoated me and followed the money. And I was like, whoa, again, that really threw me. So it led me to go deeper into understanding transformation. I thought I got it, but it made me go even deeper than I've ever been. And that's when I created Soul Flow. I discovered all these new ways of doing things, and I wanted to, take people on a journey, because it'd be nice to wake up tomorrow morning and be have everything in your life flow. But if we were to do that, if we were to totally recalibrate our entire energetic system and our body in one go, it would be too overwhelming and traumatic for us that we wouldn't be able to hold that frequency. So we actually have to do it gradually. And so I created a 6-month program to take people through that. It's a 7-step process that takes people from, moving from really seeing who they are, moving through and releasing their trauma, and strengthening their energetic field and mastering energies, so they don't just learn about it, they experience it, because it's when you experientially understand something that you really get it. And so that's really imperative. So I take these people on a journey to become a master in their own lives on a daily basis, not just sporadically, through to being a leader. And that's the Soul Flow program that I have. So you can go on a group journey or a one-on-one immersion with me, and I take you through it personally. So and mentor you through it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I kind of like how you say that you were already at a level and then you had to dig deeper. And of course, sorry for everything that you had to go through to experience that, but it gave you an insight that you are able to help others to dig deeper in themselves as well, and figure out how to deal with that.
Yeah, Yeah, it's I feel like it's my gift to the world. I've done it the hard way. I've done it the long way. I've tried everything so other people don't have to.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so there's so many things you can do, so many. And it's like, well, what's the best path? And because I've tried it and I've experienced it, not just through my own journey, but through thousands of clients, I can go, yep, this is the way that works. This is the path. So you don't have to spend, over a decade trying to work it out. You've got a 6-month journey to take you where is back to you, back home to yourself.
Yes, 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 yes. That's perfect. Um, just yesterday, I was telling someone that we have to not look at ourselves, um, because if you're not sharing yourself and your experience, you are kind of being selfish because you could be teaching someone else what you went through and they can learn from what you went through. So I made an example. Steph Curry, best basketball player in the world, arguably. But if you ever guarded him and you knew how to defend him, like you owe it to other coaches to tell them how to defend the best basketball player in the world. Not that you owe it to them, but it's a gift and it's something that you would have to offer to other people. And I just wanted to keep it surface level as far as that's concerned, but that is a real ordeal, right?
Well, I completely agree. But if we take a step back and look at it from a big picture perspective, the journey of transformation, and which is what I've dug deep in, what's actually essential in the journey of transformation. What are the important bits, and what's just stuff, um, or symptoms of it. And on that journey is first we need to heal ourselves, and then we move through this place where we're no longer in survival, and we're stepping into being motivated. Instead of being motivated by suffering and moving away from it, we're motivated by joy. And then we move through that, and we move to a place of mastering whatever it is, such as like mastering basketball. And then we move to a place of teaching it. And that's the journey of transformation. And if you choose not to teach it, you're actually holding yourself back, because in teaching something, from what I've also discovered, is in the teaching of it, you actually grow and expand because you master it on it. You get it on another level. So it's a journey of transformation, and if you're not willing to share it, you actually limiting yourself. And if we look at it from, start to get a little bit woo woo, and look at the spirit and the soul and the journey of all of that, is you stop getting information, you stop getting the guidance to really expand yourself, because you're choosing not to take on the guidance, right? They're guiding you, hey, now it's time to do this, and you're like, oh no, I don't want to do that. So they're like, well, we won't give you any more guidance if you don't choose to take our guidance. So it has a ripple effect if you choose not to pass your wisdom on.
It does. It does. Like I in just the in a spiritual aspect, me personally, I believe that's why we're all here. And if we didn't teach and pass it all on, then we wouldn't be here. you know, it's like if you just look at nature, if you watch nature shows, if you watch the lions, you watch the tigers, they teach their children how to hunt. You just have to pass it on. I think that we as human beings are the same. And that's just kind of how that energy, and that transformation happens, um, and influence as well. I would like to go to your website, Kamina, and what I would like to do And it doesn't have to be long. You don't have to, give a long explanation or anything like that. But I would like to touch on some of the subjects that you speak on, and just like bullet points. So just give the audience a little bit of exactly what it is that you speak on as far as these bullet points are concerned. All right. So um, let's start with energy mastery, the hidden key to transformation, and mindset. Can we speak about mindset? Mindset alone keeps people stuck. Can you speak about that just a bit?
Sure. So if I what mindset's really important. It's like if I am criticizing myself and I like go, oh, you could have done better, or oh, that was really crap the way you did that. If I'm talking to myself and I'm telling myself that, if I flip the script and I go, oh, okay, I can see, how I could improve that, or I can see an alternative perspective on that. I step back and I go, oh, that's another way of looking at it. That's really helpful. But it's like, if somebody's depressed, you can't just say to them, hey, just be happy. They just go, yeah, if I could do that, I would just do that. I can't just say some magic words and all of a sudden be happy. It doesn't quite work that way. You can't just change the way you think and all of a sudden, yeah, okay, all right, I'm fine. It's what's going on energetically is you've got some blocks in your subconscious, because your conscious self, which is here in your prefrontal cortex, is your conscious self, and everything back here is your subconscious. That's all the stuff what says makes your heart beat without you having to think about it, or your hairs on your arms, raise up and create a coating around you to create warmth when you feel cold. All of these automatic things that you don't think about. And we have subconscious thoughts that get in the way of our body functioning properly. Our heart might beat irregularly, and that's because we have beliefs sitting in our subconscious. And guess what? Those subconscious beliefs beat your conscious self every single time. So just by changing the thoughts, trying to change them, it's just not going to work. You have to work out what these blocks are sitting in your subconscious and allow yourself to process them in the right way. And there's a lot of ideas on how you process emotions, but I'm all about bite-sized changes. If it takes me longer than 5 or 10 minutes to do something, I'm just not going to do it, right? You just don't. So, and how it works is, us humans are great at overcomplicating things. So, interestingly, the simplest way is usually the right way. And so when we know, and all we have to do in processing something is know, what do I need to know and what do I need to learn about this? I don't need to play a situation over and over trying to understand where someone's coming from. I just need to know, what do I need to know and what do I need to learn from this situation? And then you get all those light bulb moments, and your body starts to detach from the trauma and the stories and the beliefs that you've created of, where you doubt yourself or you're confused. And in doing that, you start to just naturally change your mindset rather than forcing it.
Awesome. Awesome. Thank you for that. Next up, the power of energetic influence and leading without force, and how to magnetize, inspire, and lead with presence and not push. Can you explain that a bit?
Yeah. So again, it's this allowing things to occur naturally, like seeing the removing force, because it's if someone tries to force you into doing something, someone's like, you're not wanting to do something, you're not you know, and even if you are wanting to do it, if you feel someone trying to force you to do something, it's almost natural human behavior to go, I don't want to do it now. Like that whole reverse psychology thing. Sometimes you're going to tell people not to do it and they might do it. And it's like, so if someone's trying to force you, we naturally have resistance and back off. We might still do it, but it'll take us longer. So it's like, so if we look at that within ourselves, if we try and force ourselves to do something, it doesn't, it usually doesn't either happen or it takes a lot longer. So the Japanese have this word kaizen. They have this approach to doing things when they're starting something new. So if, say, for example, you know, we all know that New Year's resolutions don't work, because what happens is people go, say, for example, they want to lose weight. They're like, okay, I'm going to start this exercise regime and I'm going to eat different and I'm going to do all these things. And they start to do it and they go, you know, delve right into it. And then, you know, within 2 or 3 weeks, usually less, but within 2 or 3 weeks, they're not doing it anymore, even though they really, really want to. And because they're trying to force and go and not allow it to happen naturally. But if we look at the Japanese approach, this Kaizen approach, it's bite-sized changes. It's little bit by little bit. So they start with maybe just 5 minutes a day. Just start doing this new thing that's, you know, so it's not overwhelming the amygdala, that survival area in the brain. It's not overwhelming it. You're gradually introducing it to your system. And so your body's slowly taking it on. And then you can increase it to 10 minutes or, you know, whatever it is. And then just gradually bringing it in. And so leading by it being natural is not trying to force anything, not just pushing your ideas too much into jolting the system that you go, no. And it's removing the blocks. So these energetic blocks that are sitting in the subconscious, allowing them and knowing how to remove them properly so it feels natural to step into this new leadership role or doing whatever it is you're doing. You're allowing your business to flow in its natural way, understanding the rhythms. So you know, if we look at the environment, we've got cycles, you know, so that's like winter and summer, day and night. And so we have cycles in our life as well, which are, you know, we might be going through a rest cycle, and that could last for 6 months to a year or more. And then we might go through a, you know, an active cycle. And so if we can pay attention to these cycles and not try to be anything but those cycles, you know, when we're in a rest cycle and we're trying to force ourselves to do things, it generally doesn't work. If you've ever noticed that, you know, have you ever been in a situation where you just, I need to rest, but I've got to do this thing. It doesn't happen because you're supposed to be in a rest cycle. So when we can really listen to ourselves and understand our own cycles, just like day and night, you know, we can, you know, use them and go with them rather than creating resistance. And in that resistance, it just makes us, things take longer.
I get it. I agree. I see exactly what you mean by that. And I guess that kind of transitions into my next point. And would that be living in flow, aligning your soul, and just starting flowing along?
Yeah, so when we start to live, you know, in this more natural, start to really connect with our innate self, our beyond our mind and body, and connect with the inner wisdom of our body and mind working as one. And when we connect with that, then we, you know, start to hear the whispers of our soul guidance, what our soul desires for us and be in alignment with our soul blueprint, what we really came here to do, our mission, our purpose. And they're those little whispers, you know, just at the back of the mind. Just go try this, like it was like that whole, when I was telling you about my story when I went to the Mind Body Spirit Festival and my soul whispered some really obscure thing to me, like, I've always wanted to try this, and I was like, oh, actually I've never heard of it. It had, like, back then I needed some really bizarre thing because I probably wouldn't have paid attention. You know, it would just be like, oh, I'll try this, and I might just go, oh yeah, later. But because it was such a bizarre message, it made me step up and pay attention. And I don't need that anymore. I can hear the whispers of my soul now going, here, try this. And I go, oh, okay, yeah. And then it's, you know, and I'm following my blueprint, my path set out for me, rather than, you know, being somewhere off track and having to dig and fight my way back to my true self, you know, back home to me. And life just flows much more smoothly. Doesn't mean you don't have challenges. It just means you can move through the challenges with a lot faster and in a way that works for you.
This is awesome. It's an awesome way to listen to yourself. So this is based on, your program is based on showing people how to amplify your intuition, and basically the manifestation that people are seeking. You can kind of clear yourself to receive the manifestation that you are attaining or you wish to attain. Is that correct?
That's exactly right. Because, you know, our conscious self goes, I want to start this business and I want it to reach, you know, lots of people and do this thing. And it's like, yeah, that's what I want. And I want it to be done within 6 months or a year or whatever, you know, whatever goal we set for ourselves. And then we're like, well, why isn't this happening? I'm like thinking, you know, all these positive affirmations every day. And I've said, this is what I want. And you know, all these people said you need to do this and this and this, and then you will manifest it. You know, we've all seen the Jim Carrey thing where he wrote a check for $1 million and said, I'm going to do this. And he did it. So everyone's like, okay, if I do that, it's going to happen. But the thing is, well, one, Jim Carrey took action. You know, he was doing the things to make that happen. And a lot of people don't necessarily take all the action. He was listening to his inner guidance. He was following his path. And he was removing the blocks in the way that may have stopped him from doing that, those subconscious blocks. So it's the blocks that are in the way, stopping us from achieving what we're trying to manifest. And so it's really essential that we, you know, remove them, because it's like if you've got a big giant fat wall in front of you and that's in the way of you getting to where you need to, and you don't remove it, you're just going to keep banging your head against the wall. No manifestation in the world is going to get you through that wall unless you remove it.
Anybody out there listening to this, I just want you to understand how powerful of a statement that Kemina just made. And it as far as manifestation, no matter how much even with prayer, you know, you at a young age, you're taught to pray, you know, if you are of, you know, religious. And even if you're taught that, and then, you know, you're taught just, you're just taught not only prayer, but maybe manifestation, or you're taught the law of attraction. Well, the problem is if there's something that's in the middle of that, in the midst of that, that's blocking all of your prayers, all of the things that you're trying to attract to you. First and foremost, you have to get rid of the noise. You have to get rid of the junk. You have to get rid of the blocks that's in between you and your blessings. Would you agree with that, Kemina?
Absolutely. And it logically makes sense too, right? It's like, oh, duh.
Yeah, logically, it makes sense. And a lot of people live in survivor mode. So although they are wishing for these things, they have to deal with surviving first. And that kind of that puts a damper on it. That really puts a damper on it. That's what's holding you up.
Well,
Um,
if you whatever you focus on, you create, you amplify. So if I'm in survival mode, I can be sitting there going all day long, I am rich, I am rich, I am rich, but you don't fucking believe it because you're not. And so you're just tricking yourself. You're just kidding yourself. You're like, I am moving towards having more money. Um, let's get real about it. Let's stop this spiritual bypassing because it's just not true. You can't trick yourself into anything. You
right,
need
right.
to take real steps towards it. No amount of positive thinking is going to get you where you want to be. It's just not. Because it's just trying to trick yourself. And so it's, yeah, okay, I want this thing. So if I'm focusing on, oh yeah, I'm thinking positive thoughts. Okay, yeah, I want this. But then, most of the day I'm freaking out. Where am I going to get my next dollar from? That's really what you're focusing on. So you've got to little bit by little bit just change that way. Remove the blocks that are in the way from you getting there. Keep it real, people.
Keep it real. Keep it real. So okay. Let's say this, and it's based on focusing a person's energy, right? Let's use Jim Carrey, or let's use someone who came from the ghetto, the bottom, or whatever. So, in some sense, are you saying that with their energy, Kamina, they have to kind of be comfortable with where they're at so they can focus on the bigger picture?
That's exactly right. If you're freaking out about stuff, that's what you're amplifying. You have to find a way to be comfortable in this shit. Good. It's about being present.
Being present. Being present. That's perfect. That's a perfect way to put it. It's about being present so you can concentrate on the thing that matters.
What's right in front of you. All you can do is deal with what's right in front of you. If I'm present with that and not worrying about some potential thing in the future, if I'm present with this, I can deal with this, I can adjust this, I can change this. So and daily reflections are really important, because we're really good at criticizing ourselves. We criticize ourselves more than anyone else could ever possibly criticize us. And so what if and how you flip that is keeping it real. Every day you look at your day. What worked? What didn't work? And how could I shift that? Rather than just reflecting on your life at your birthdays or at Christmas or at the end of the year, whatever you want to call it. And and instead of just reflecting on your life then you've got massive changes to make. If you made tiny little tweaks on a daily basis, then you're on top of things. It's not an overwhelming shift you need to make, but you're also celebrating yourself. You're going, what worked? Oh, I did that really well. And it might be this tiny little thing. If you're only looking at the bad things that you do, then guess what? That's what you're focusing on. You're amplifying the bad things. So celebrate you, look at what didn't work, and how can I change that? And that's how you move towards your thing that you're trying to manifest.
Listen, 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 listen. Kemina. You really just dropped a nugget, jewel, gem right then. Oh my God. So I want to repeat this. I want to repeat what you just said, right? And because it's very pertinent. It's very important. So here's the thing. Celebrate yourself on a daily basis. Don't wait until a birthday once a year. Don't wait until a 5 year anniversary, a 10-year anniversary. Celebrate yourself and your accomplishments on a daily basis. Whether you have to keep a journal, whether you have to keep a diary or post it on social media, celebrate yourself and your accomplishments every single day. Is that right, Kemina?
Absolutely.
That's all that right there just kind of like I truly believe I see how powerful that was when you said it. Because that can absolutely change someone's trajectory based on and I'm sitting here thinking about like birthday parties, people just go all out, but then they was probably just pissed off at themselves the week before, all the way, 360 days up until the 5 days that they plan their birthday party. They was probably pissed off at their circumstances up until that point. But if they could kind of look at it on a celebration day by day or weekly, then, it would definitely change the trajectory of someone's life or just the way that they think about themselves or carry themselves. So thank you for that.
My pleasure.
Awesome. Awesome. I want you to let my crowd know and my listeners know the best way to find you, the best way to contact you.
Right, so you can find me on my website. You can find the Soul Flow program on my website, bodyflowenergetics.org. And I'm on Facebook, Kemina.Fulwood. And I'll give you the links so you can make them available to people.
I would definitely put the links in the comments. And as soon as this podcast and YouTube come out, all of the links will be available for anybody to get in touch with Kemina. And I would suggest that you do so. Kemina, I want to thank you for coming on the Millionaire by Morning show this evening and giving us all of these jewels, nuggets, gems, and everything that we can utilize moving forward in our lives to be more successful.
Thank you. My pleasure. It was lovely to be here with you.
Awesome, awesome, awesome. Thank you, Kemina.